I'm excited because financial institutions are moving to blockchains and the timing is right.
Hi guys, it's Charlotte from Yellow, and I'm joined today by Asheesh Birla. Just tell us a bit about yourself first, and just your little history with Ripple, and then how you moved on to Abonne-toi.
Yeah, well, Shaila, thanks for having me on and taking time out of your day. Well, I'm here in Sydney. It's supposed to be summer, but it's been raining nonstop. But nevertheless, it is super hot at XRP Australia. Like the amount of energy here today is incredible. A little bit about myself, though. I'm Asheesh Birla. I joined Ripple in the early days, 2013. I was drawn to the energy around blockchain. I started my career just as the internet was starting to take off, and I said, listen, what's next? What is that new platform? And I started reading about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, and so I decided to join Chris Larsen at Ripple in 2013. I helped scale Ripple for over a decade. I moved to the board of Ripple, and then I saw something happen out there, and I saw that regulation was starting to come to fruition. I started hearing from institutions that they're interested in this blockchain technology. I thought the timing was right for something called Evernorth. And what Evernorth does is that it helps institutions and individuals get retail access to XRP. And it's an active treasury management, meaning I plan on deploying XRP to generate yield, both on-chain, so it helps the XRP ecosystem, and also in traditional methods as well. So it's not a passive treasury, it's an active treasury. I couldn't pick better timing in my opinion. I do feel like the amount of institutional interest out there, as evident by ETFs, is incredible. And so I'm excited for this next chapter.
Do you think the rise of RLUSD and regulated stablecoins limits XRP's upside, or does a native token still hold a unique liquidity advantage that stablecoins can't match?
Before you had stablecoins, it was very hard to use any of the features on XRP. How do you get on and off? How the internet got started was that folks were able to dial in to the internet, then they got broadband access. Before that, it was just a handful of institutions and governments that could use the internet, but those on and off ramps gave access to the world. And I really think that stablecoins are on and off ramps. It makes it really easy to get on and then use all the great technology that blockchains are good for. In my opinion, really good for financial markets and having those form on XRP. I think all tokens are going to need liquidity. I think XRP is a great asset for providing that liquidity. I think it powers something called the XRP DEX.
With the Swift now having its own blockchain for fast settlement, is the bridge asset pitch still valid, or do you think gold's shifted since that?
No, I think that XRP is the bridge between traditional finance and blockchain, decentralized finance. Listen, I'm not scared of Swift. Swift hasn't really changed since the 1960s. I don't think they're going to wake up one day and say hey, let's revolutionize, payments. I don't think that's how they're built. I don't think that's what their culture is about. But I think that you're going to see new companies come and use this technology. I think you're going to see banks bypass old legacy technologies and move directly to blockchain. You're already seeing the likes of BlackRock, Fidelity, come into this space. And the great thing about blockchain technology is you need fewer intermediaries, not more.
We talked about a few moments ago how you were on the board of Ripple, and then you sort of had to move off so that you could launch Evernorth. And you've done really well with that and raised $1 billion. Congratulations on that. How do you prove to regulators that Evernorth is fully independent company and it's not just an arm of Ripple?
Yeah, so I mean, we have one other former Rippler on the team, so I wouldn't say that there's too many. But on the board, it's an independent board. We have 5 total board members. 3 of them will be independent. Ripple is an investor, but a small, voting investor, and a minority investor at that. So what binds us together is the passion for developing the XRP ecosystem. And that's what Evernorth is about. That's what gets us excited. I think the timing is right for something like Evernorth.
XRP is a North Star, so you feel like you're doing all of these things, but they're all to sort of benefit XRP in the long term. Where does the profit come from? during a crypto winter?
XRP today is the third largest asset by market cap. The XRP ETFs are performing better than the alternative digital assets, including Bitcoin. So I think there is a lot of interest in XRP as a product. I think it is a very liquid asset. Today I'm excited because financial institutions are moving to blockchains, and the timing is right. I'm excited because the Genius Act passed, and you saw the rise of stablecoins. I'm excited because the Clarity Act is moving its way through government as well. So we've seen again and again, if you have the technology, that's not enough. What you need is technology, you need regulation, and then you see capital formation. And so we got the first one, obviously, for a lot of years. I think you're seeing regulation. I think that third piece is super exciting right now with the capital inflows. And we're waiting for some of the regulation, but I think we got some of it with the stablecoins and the Genius Act.
How do you feel with the rise of like AI agents as well? Because obviously that's a hot topic at the moment. And do you think they're ready to manage like treasury flows?
I'm really excited about AI agents. And the reason I'm excited about AI agents is because they need programmatic finance to work. If you want to think about advanced workflows, if you have an API or if you have a programmatic interface, that will make agents even more powerful. And traditional financial systems, they're analog. There's not an easy way to access capital. There's not an easy way to access a loan in a programmatic way. Think about the blockchains and the AI agents working together. I'm excited about that sort of intersection. And again, the amount of humans that use blockchains, I think, is going to be, in the future, in my opinion, dwarfed by the number of agents using blockchain.
Let's talk about the perks of an investor using digital asset treasuries. Why should they use a digital asset treasury? Why wouldn't they just go for an XRP ETF?
We are stewards of the XRP ecosystem. Other ETFs out there, they're stewards of Solana. They're stewards of Ethereum. They're stewards of Bitcoin. They're stewards. You go down the chain. Our focus is around the XRP ecosystem, and more specifically, because we're focused on one chain and one digital asset, we are going to help develop that ecosystem by using in the future some of those DeFi protocols. XLS 66 is a new one. It's around lending. There's potential for us to use that to generate yield for the treasury. That's great. Like, that not only helps the ecosystem, but then also gives potential yield for the treasury. And so we're excited about that. I think there's a lot of benefits of being singularly focused. As you know, digital assets are largely a liquidity business, and pooling that liquidity on fewer chains, not more, is going to make that experience better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that part. Coming back to XRP and XRP ledger, do you really feel that tokenizing real world assets is necessary and on the XRP ledger? Or do you think we're just forcing some things?
Well, I will let the numbers speak for themselves. And if you look at tokenized value on blockchains of real world assets, that chart is growing.
Yeah.
And I think that with the right kind of regulation, that will only accelerate. And so, hey, like, you start with one use case. Amazon started with books, and then you sort of build out from there. And I think that's what you're seeing in blockchain. I think starting with simple use cases like payments, you let the liquidity build, you let regulation come, and then you start branching out into new assets. And new assets or new kinds of products. Tokenized value is not a new thing to blockchain. I think what is new is that institutions are interested. So you're seeing Franklin Templeton tokenize, you're seeing BlackRock tokenize, and the regulation. So again, the technology was there for tokenization. XRP, you could tokenize a lot of things, and XRP tokenized gold in the early days. So the technology was there, but the regulation wasn't there. And now that the regulation is starting to come to fruition, you're going to actually see, in my opinion, more potential institutional interest.
And lastly, talking about token price. So I know that Brad mentioned on stage that in 5 years' time, he reckons that people will be in a happy place with their investment. I don't expect you to speak to predictions and that sort of thing. But what was interesting is what you did mention on the stage about the graph that you showed from DeFi Llama, showing that the DeFi landscape is actually, if you look at it, if you zoom out, we're just stagnant. So even though the market is low right now, XRP is still performing quite well in comparison to other digital assets. But if we're sitting here in a year from now, if the tech itself, or if there hasn't been a change in token price, because of the tech, what do you think is to blame for that? Do you think it's the sort of the regulation or the bottlenecks that we may have for people using the technology?
Well, I can't predict price, and what I can say is that 1 year is not long term; that is short term. I think when you look at different cycles and innovation cycles, you got to look at these things in 10 years. 10 years is meaningful change. 10 years for new capital to form, for institutions to actually move on to blockchain. I think that's the right time horizon. And I know everybody wants 1 year, 2 years, and maybe our society needs to change a little bit and think about the bigger picture. What I will say is that the metrics feel different. The adoption metrics of tokenized value, the growth in stable coins. I mean, 3 years ago, folks were saying, is anyone using this technology? And now today you're seeing every day there seems to be a new headline of a new financial institution coming on chain.
Yeah.
And so, zooming out, wow, we are in a different place than we were 3 years ago. And so like it does feel, like the price has gone different than where the metrics are. But in general, I'm still bullish. Like I'm still bullish on this technology. I'm still bullish on the long term. But 1 year isn't long term. I think that you got to look at these things in 10 years and zoom out.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can catch up again next time and see where we're at with Evernorth as well.
Thank you so much.